Welcome to the Hopenning, the place where hope is happening, with your hosts Fran Cadrone and Marina Theron-Monnery. For more information about Fran and Marina, or to apply to be a guest on the show, please go to our website www.hopenning.com. The Hopenning is for informal purposes only and is based on the research of your hosts, Fran and Marina. They, as well as their guests, are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from this podcast, which is not intended to replace any professional medical advice or care by medical professionals you are currently utilizing. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on the Hopenning. We are welcoming a very special guest who's very dear to my heart, Renae Falcinella, who is coming to us from Australia, Western Australia, right, Renae?
Yes, that's right.
That's
Thank
right.
you for having me.
You're so welcome. Renae is a colleague. She's a passionate rapid transformational therapy practitioner, and she's dedicated to facilitating her clients to heal from old subconscious patterns and step into their power. Renae is a master healer. She creates a safe and compassionate space where clients feel they can explore issues that have been holding them back, heal from these issues, and step into a life that is in alignment with their dreams. She will see people in their power, and she will be their biggest cheerleader. She will remind them that anything is possible, and she is lovingly guiding them back to the truth of who they are. She is the creator of her signature program, The Healed Horseman's Journey, and she also offers personalized packages to suit everybody's individual needs. So welcome, Renae. I have so many questions. Welcome, Fran. Didn't say hi to you yet.
Hello, Marina, and hello, Renae. It's exciting to talk to you. Some of the things that we talked about in our earlier interview just have really piqued my interest, so I can't wait to touch on them as well. So Renae, you've started this journey with rapid transformational therapy, the same as we did. Can you tell us how you got from 0 to 60? Because you are very well known now. You've created some incredible things with your business. So how did you get here? What was your journey like?
Sure. Thanks for asking. Well, I feel like my journey is sort of tied up with my house journey as well. It all sort of fits in together. So for a long time, I was sort of living in this state of flux. I was living between different houses. I was half the time spending time in my hometown, Pemberton, where I am now, and half the time driving to Perth, which is 4 hours away. And I really longed to settle back into the country life. I was never really a city person. I like some parts of it, but my heart really belonged here, like in nature and in the bush and with my horses. And in the city, I felt really stifled. I felt like a part of me was missing. And I remember saying, I long for adventure. But the truth is, I think I just wanted to escape the life I'd created there. That's the truth. I wasn't living a life in alignment with my dreams. I was working in a full-time job in Perth that just did not fulfill me at all. It was an administration job where I was booking appointments, scheduling appointments, and I wasn't living my purpose. I remember, this is how bad it was. I would make 10 cups of tea a day just to get up away from my desk, and I would walk slowly back to my desk because I hated sitting down for so long, and where I was working, we weren't busy, so I wasn't doing much. And the crazy thing is, how all this story really ties together, and the underlying theme is that we are always creating our lives, whether we know it or not. And I remember before I got that job going for it, I remember thinking to myself, I just want a job where like I don't have to do much because I don't want to screw it up. Like I just want to get paid for doing nothing. And what do you know that happens? Exactly what happens. And it turns out to be my worst nightmare. Like, this is terrible. And at the time, I had no idea. I didn't know about RTT. But of course, my subconscious beliefs were running the show. And I had a really deeply ingrained belief that I'm not enough. So that was running it all. It was like running all my behaviors. I was going for jobs that I didn't believe I was enough. So I just went for something that I thought I could just sort of skate by in. So at this point, my weekends are like, oh, my saving grace. Like, so I arranged to have a weekend down at the farm. And this is another like mind-blowing part of the story. I decide to go for a horse ride with my mum and my sister-in-law and my friend. And this is on the Sunday. And I remember saying to myself, like, I just don't want to go back to the city. Like, I can't go back to that job. Like, oh my God, like the thought of it. Oh, and what do you know? I go for a horse ride on the Sunday and we're riding along. I'm like so happy to be back on my horse. I remember having tears in my eyes, like, this is what I want. Like, this feels like freedom to me. Like, what am I doing? Anyway, we're on the ride and my horse gets too close to the horse in front of me. And this horse ears go back. But before I have a chance to acknowledge the warning signs, like everything happens so quickly, the horse kicks out at my horse, hits my leg, and my leg shatters. And it's this massive crack. And oh, I still remember the sound. And it was just so painful. Anyway, of course, I end up in hospital. I don't go back to the city. My family is like, oh, we'll look after you. I'm so lucky to have them. And I remember saying, like, I didn't want to go back to the city. And then this is what happens. I didn't know I was creating all this at the time. I wasn't really aware of it all. But looking back, I could see what I was doing. And so from there on out, I remember being at home on the couch in all this agony, like all this physical pain, and it was a really difficult healing journey. Actually, I was allergic, it turned out, to a lot of pain medications, so I ended up back in hospital quite often. And I remember thinking, even though I'm not in all of this physical pain, I still feel more happy being here in the country than I did in the city, with all the emotional pain of living this life that just wasn't the life I wanted. So that's when I decided, like, no more. It's time to leave. And but I couldn't leave all at once. I had to stay living half and half because my husband had a job up there and he flew out of Perth. So we didn't have anywhere of our own down here. So it was like staying with my family while I could. And in this time, what led me to RTT is actually I discovered Mary Morrissey. I don't know, have you heard of her?
I've done the Dream Builder coaching course, yes.
Ah, of course. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I discovered her just by chance. I was watching something and she popped up and I was like, oh my God, like, yes, this all makes sense. And so I signed up for her dream building course, and I did the course and I loved it. I was like, yes, like it just opened my mind, like, to the possibilities. Like, I'm starting to really dream now, like, and I loved it. But I did realize after completing it, I still did feel stuck. Like, I cracked open my mind and I was ready to create the life I wanted, but I just realized that I'm still feeling held back. And I think it might have been 6 months later or a year later, perhaps, that's when I discovered Marissa. And that was like full body tingles. I see her on YouTube, and I could, like, normally I skip past the ads, but I listened to her whole thing, and like by the end of hearing her talk, I was like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. Like, oh my God. And how she talked about the subconscious beliefs, I was like, yes, that was like the missing link for me. And so that's what led me to RTT. And I signed up, like I applied for the interview and I signed up, and it was a huge leap for me. I was working casually. I was like, I have no idea how I'm going to pay for this. But I knew I had to do it. And I signed up there and then. And how I went from 0 to 60, I guess, is I worked on everything that came up in me, every limiting belief. As soon as it came up, I reached out, I asked for help. I met Marina early on, and I had an amazing session from her, which I'm so grateful for. And then I had sessions on anything that cropped up that got in the way of me moving forward with my business. Everything I remember the first session I had with Marina in the visualization. She has me walking down the stairs, visualizing my dream home. And the amazing thing is, where I am now, there's literally those stairs. Like, and but of course there was time in between there. And through that, I just continued to work on myself, and
Oh.
and follow my passions, I guess.
Well, I'm quite emotional, Renae. So it's amazing, because I remember it so clearly as daylight. Like, you really wanted this dream home. And then recently I saw you post about how you manifested your dream home. And I sent it to Fran. I said, we need to talk to Renae. I need to know the story in full. How did it happen? How did you manifest it? Because if people want to know how to manifest, this is how.
Okay, so it's quite right. So in the beginning, I'm traveling from place to place, and I remember, like, I really wanted to move to the country, and I have this very specific vision. I want to have a few acres. I want to have my horse there. I want it to be a nature retreat. I want windows. I want it to be like a modern home, but have character. And so it was quite specific. But everything down here is like large farms for sale, which is too much for us. I just wanted somewhere where I could have my horses. Or it's like old houses that need a lot of work, and that was nothing like we envisioned. So we're looking for a place, and time passes. We're traveling back and forth. I'm living out of the suitcase. I keep working on myself. Then we decide to keep looking. Eventually we come across a block, and it's 2.5 acres, and it's not exactly the size we want. It's a bit smaller, but because we'd been looking for quite a long time, in all honesty, I kind of talked myself into it. I was like, right, well, obviously we've got to build it, because nothing's come up. So I was like, I knew that we had to take action, as well as, to work with the universe. So I was like, this feels like a good step. Let's buy the block. And so we brought the block. We start designing the home, and that helps us understand exactly what we want, which is a really crucial part of manifesting, as you know, being able to visualize all the parts. So we pay for a designer, we get everything designed, but things start happening. Like, we keep getting delays. Like, it's the Shire comes in and says, like, you have to build in this certain spot on the block, and it's like, oh my God, that's where it's like really expensive with the earthworks and stuff. And that made us realize, we were like, okay, if we're going to spend this amount of money, is it really what we want? Like, if we're really truthful with ourselves, we know that we can create the dream home, but we can't change the block once we're on it. And we realize it's not actually. It got to the point where we're like, for this amount of money, is this what we want? And we realized, if we're honest, it's not. So we start looking again, and nothing comes up for a while, but we're like, it's happening. We know it's happening. Eventually my sister-in-law comes to me and she's like, shows me a property. She's like, oh my God, like 5 acres. It's set up for horses. It's a modern home. It's beautiful. I'm like, oh, that is gorgeous. It's not quite all the rooms that we want, but it's set up for horses. So I'm excited about it. I go to inquire about it. My husband's not fully on board, but like, this is the closest we've seen. So let's look at it. The day I'm going to go look at it, the real estate rings me and says, I'm sorry, but that house, like, it literally sold today. And I remember going, oh my God, like, it's been so long. And I remember feeling really sad, and I'm just crying. But then I realized the reason I'm crying is not actually because of the house. It's because of the story. I had enough awareness from the work I'd done. I realized it was the story I was telling myself was, we've waited this long and finally something's come up, and now, like, it's gone. Like, how much longer? Like, nothing else is out there. And I realized that's the story I was telling myself. I'm like, that's not what I want to create. That's that's not what we're working towards. And I had the awareness to say, okay, let's change the story. What am I telling us? What am I telling myself? And so I decided to say that was a sign that our dream home is coming. Like, it's the closest we've ever been, but it wasn't the one. So, and you know how when we manifest, a lot of us are taught to say, if not this, something better. And I reiterated that, but this time I really felt it in my bones. I've been saying it quite a lot, and this time I really felt it. I was like, I allowed myself to really embody it, like, oh my God, something better than that is coming. I was like, whoa. And I actually like start shaking, like, oh my God, all right. So now we're like, let's take the action. We know we've been shown that it more and more that it is possible. So let's just start preparing our home for sale. So we start doing things like doing the paving. We meet with the real estate. We just start getting prepared. And sure enough, about, I think it was maybe 3 weeks after that of really, and spending all this time embodying it and getting excited and just going like, let's start moving forward. Let's work with the universe. It was about 3 weeks later, and I'm lying in bed looking at realestate.com, and this amazing place pops up, like I'm amazing. Like, I have the full body chills like I did when I saw Marissa. I was like, this is the one. Like, this isn't what I'd envisioned. This is better. Like, this is this is everything, every little thing I'd wanted over the years, everything I'd said, like, I'd love trees. I'd love like established trees. How good would it be to like have our own bush? Like, how amazing would it be to have our driveway lined with trees, these beautiful trees that change color in the autumn? How incredible would it be to have room for my horses there, to have an easy care garden, to have something unique that is like what we designed? And this place comes up, and I'm literally, I feel like my brain exploded when I look at the design, and it's so close to the design of the house that we were going to build, except it's better. It's like, it's open plan. It's got all the windows. The bush is literally the backyard. It's just mind-blowing. And it's got a studio apartment. We didn't have that in our other design, but we had like one half we were thinking for guests and one half for us. And this was exactly it. I'm like, oh my God. I ring my husband. He's away at work. We spent like hours on the phone just looking at the pictures going, this is what we're going to do here. This is where I'll have my horses. This is where your office will be. We're just tingling all over. We're both all in. And from there, we just decided, we were like, we're just going to do everything in our power to make this happen, and for the rest we're going to trust, because we knew it wasn't just going to be us for this to come together. Like, we already knew we didn't have the money that they were asking, so we were like, okay, there's going to be a lot of trusting involved here, and we're just going to do everything that feels
Need a
good.
little miracle.
Yeah, exactly. I listened to a lot of subconscious reprogramming about trusting the universe, believing in miracles, all of that sort of thing. And so we get going. We're like, well, I come to view the house, I'm blown away. I'm walking around with my jaw on the floor, and the real estate's telling me all these features. I'm like, buddy, it's sold. Like, I don't even remember what's exactly included. I'm just like, I know this is the place. I'm just walking around like touching things so that I know when I leave here, I can remember what it feels like to feel the stone bench tops. I'm like, I'm going to use this in all my visualizations. Like, I'm just sitting there like feeling my feet on the hard wooden floorboards, and just in my own little world, like, oh, this is what this feels like to be home. And during the chat with the real estate, he asked, oh, you know, what's your position? And I said, like, we definitely can put an offer in, and we knew that because we'd been designing our own home, and so we knew where we were at, but I knew it wouldn't be quite the amount, but I didn't tell him that yet. I just said, we're definitely going to put an offer in. And he says, okay, like, do you need to sell your property? I said, yes, I actually need to sell 2 properties, like the Perth property and the block that we'd brought. And I could see his face. It was kind of like, oh, damn. Like, he was like, okay, like, I'll be honest, the owners are looking for a cash sale. Like, they have to sell this place to get the place they're going. So they're not really looking for, you know, the snowball effect of waiting for us to move our properties on. And I could see him, but I could still feel in my body, you know what, this is still our place. Like, I'm just going to keep moving forward. So I said, no worries, but we'd like to put our offer in. And he takes our offer, and it's a few days of like, oh, shaking and and dreaming and just allowing ourselves to dream. We had like all these well-meaning people saying, oh, like, don't get your hopes up, you know, like from the outside it looked like it, you know, the odds were against us, and there was lots of lovely people in our lives that just wanted to sort of protect us, but didn't sort of understand the manifesting process and that. But because I was so embodied in it, that sort of didn't put me off track anymore. And I just learned who I could talk to. I have an amazing sister-in-law, and we dream together. So when I wanted to really get into the feeling, we'd just have long cuppa chats and talk about our dreams. And so I did all that while all the process was going along. And it's a few days we don't hear anything back about the offer. And every time my phone rings, I'm like I'm just dropping my phone every time, like, because I'm so like, oh my God, could be the real estate. Eventually, when they do ring, it's the lovely real estate lady, but I could tell by this, like, immediately, you know, the tone of someone's voice, I could tell it wasn't the news we wanted. And she says, oh, like, I'm so sorry. Like, I know how much you wanted this place, but they've gone with the other offer. She just said, like, your offer is too low. So yeah, I'm really sorry, but that they've gone with the other offer, that they do have to sell their property though. So she said there's still a possibility, but I could tell from her, she was thinking that's a pretty way off possibility. My mind is like, just hearing the word possibility, like, yes, of course. There's still a possibility. So I immediately said to her, okay, what price do we need to come to? I said, like, when this offer falls through, we'll be ready with ours. And she was like, oh, she's like, I'm sorry, but I can't tell you that because they've gone with this offer. She said, I can ring you if it doesn't happen, and then I can tell you the price. And I said, okay, all right. And I left that phone call, felt disappointed, rang my husband. We both were like, oh, dang. And then been just embedding these beliefs that everything works out for us. And we just felt like this is part of the journey. We were like, somehow this is still working out for us. And we just decided we're still all in. Like, we haven't done everything that we possibly could yet. So let's keep going. Let's sell our properties. And we put our block up. It sells within 2 days of putting it up. And I remember like having the visualization in my mind, like once the block goes, it's like a domino effect. The block will go, the house will go, it's all going to fall into place. Sure enough, the block goes, and every step we're celebrating. Like every step we're like, this is the journey to where we're going, and how amazing, like how incredible. I was walking my horse at the time over to my sister-in-law's place, and I get the message from my real estate saying there's an offer come in, and I remember just like dancing in the driveway. And my sister-in-law were like, yes, it's begun. And I email the real estate and I say, look, like one of our properties is already sold, so I just want to keep you updated. This is the real estate for the house that we want to buy. And she's like, thanks for keeping me updated. I could tell they were still pretty thinking the other offer would go through. It was just like a courtesy, like, thanks for keeping us updated. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to keep the whole way. And so anyway, we'd felt what it would feel like to prepare our Perth home for sale when we were visualizing, when we didn't know that the other offer was accepted. We'd already felt in our bodies what it felt like to prepare the house for sale with all that excitement. And we just said to each other, like, we already know what that feels like. Let's keep that feeling in our bodies while we prepare the house for sale. Like, this is exciting. Let's do everything we possibly can. So we did the paving, we did painting, and we pretended we were like, you guys probably may not have seen the show because it's an Australian show, but there's a show called The Block, and it's like a renovating show. And so we just we made a game of it. We pretended we were on the block and we were like staying up into the night, like hanging artwork and just making it feel really beautiful. We set up the new furniture. We'd already brought new furniture for our home. That was also part of the manifesting process. Before we had the home, we started buying furniture that we thought would feel beautiful in there. And so we started setting that up in the home that we were selling to make it feel beautiful for the new people that were going to be coming in and buying our place. And we also engaged with the real estate that we really enjoyed dealing with. We wanted the whole journey to have the energy. We wanted to have the energy of the people who would be living in a house like this all the way. So everything that we could do, we thought, well, let's go with the real estate that we feel really in alignment with. Like he felt like a friend, like we'd just have him over for a barbecue anyway. So that also helped with being in the right energy. They were more expensive, but we were like, this is worth it. And sure enough, I think it was about 2 weeks of being on the market, we start getting offers, and that ends up being like a bidding war breaking out for our house. And then amazingly, the real estate rings me to say, like, okay, we've got all these offers come in. Do you want to hear like where you're at? And I'm like, yeah. And I could feel like, oh my God, this sounds quite promising. And he tells me that, so we'd put the pricing at where we thought was sort of on the higher end, and we're pretty hopeful. And we, in our minds, we're visualizing, imagine if we got like 25 grand more than that. Like, that would be amazing. That was like our big dream. We're like, that would be incredible. He tells me the figure, it's 45 grand more.
Wow. Wow.
Oh my God, I was so blown away. Like, I remember just like screaming. I'm like, I love you. Like, thank you so much. was incredible. And my husband and I were like this whole time the house is still under offer by someone else. So like we have people in the background saying, but like, where are you going to go? Like, aren't you like worried? And so we were like, no, we know it's working out. We did look at like rentals. We're like, okay, like if it doesn't happen, like we just wanted to make sure that we'd still feel safe in our bodies. And so Dane was like, okay, let's see what rentals are out there. There was like one rental available in the town, and it was not what we wanted. But I remember looking at it and just being like, it doesn't matter. I just had such a strong feeling like I'm kind of wasting my time looking at this. I was like, I don't think we need to spend our energy looking at this. I really do trust that it's falling into place. And my husband, he was amazing. He fully trusted. He hadn't even seen the house. He didn't come to me with the viewing. He was away at work. He'd seen the pictures. But he was like, no, I know. Yeah, it is working out for us. So we just kept going. We said, yes, like the real estate's like, well, these guys want to settle pretty quickly. Like, are you prepared for that? And at this point, we were like, oh, okay, like we want the sale to go through. We have no idea where we're ending up, but we're like, we'll make it work. Like, whatever we have to do. So I'm like, yeah, okay, we'll go with the date that they want to settle on. We could have asked for an extension, but it's like, no, I feel like we should stick with the date that they've said. So we go ahead with that. All this time we're looking at our calendars because we'd know the date that we'd put our offer in, and we knew the date that our offer was going to expire for this place. So we've kind of thought, as long as the other people don't sell by then we're still in with the possibility. So I kept the real estate up to date, and I said, this house is sold now. So we're ready to go. We'd spent this whole time getting our finance ready. We'd done all the excruciating like paperwork that comes with it, and I've sort of done that, just feeling like anytime like my mum would come along and she's like, oh my God, you've still got like all this paperwork to do, and I was like, yeah, but isn't it going to be worth it when the house comes through? And she's like, oh yeah, okay, yep. So yeah, in the meantime, we'd done all that. We'd got all our finances in order, and eventually we get the call from the finance people saying like, your pre-approvals come through. We're celebrating like mad every step of the way. We're like, we're closer than we've ever been. Like, holy moly, like this is another domino knocking over. Like, we're so close. All that we need to happen is the other people with the offer don't sell their property in time. We're looking at the calendar. The date comes up that our offer would have expired, so we assume that's when theirs has. We don't hear from the real estate, and there's like 4 days goes by, and I remember having a couple with my best friend on the Sunday, and I said to her, like, I still feel it's coming, but I remember saying to her, even if it didn't happen, like, I just feel so incredibly grateful for this place, like all the joy it's brought us already, the fun that we've had on this journey, like the lessons we've learned in trusting and having faith in ourselves to follow through, like all of that is so much gold. Even if it didn't happen, like we've learned so much, we've grown so much, we're set up for the next place, which is going to be even better. In my mind, I'm thinking, I don't know how that's possible, but so I remember having that feeling like, yeah, like, and I believe that's to do with all the work I've done with RTT, all the inner work. That's what allowed us to take the bold action, like just knowing that we'd be okay no matter what. And it allowed me to share the journey. I shared it online before we knew the house had come through. I wanted to share it with clients and people so that they could be along for the ride, and that felt so amazing because we had people cheering us on, and that was such a beautiful part of the experience. And I want everyone to feel that, and I feel like that's what my clients feel when we work together. It's like we're cheering you on. You've got someone behind you that knows that anything's possible, and that is so powerful. And I'm so thankful for Marina, for your energy that you put in to help me believe in my vision. And I feel like we just have such an amazing knock-on effect with all the lives that we touch. So that was incredible. Anyway, it gets to the Monday after I've had the couple with my friend, and I get the call from the real estate, and she says, okay, just checking in where you are at now. And I said, okay, both properties have sold, our pre-approval's ready, we're ready to go. And she's like, okay, this is good news because the other people haven't sold yet. And so she kind of strings us along for a little bit. There's a few days where we're just like, oh my God, I feel like it's really happening, but we don't have the confirmation. Eventually she rings, of course, and she says, like, put your offer back in. We put it in and it gets accepted. And oh my God, like, I am crying. Like, when the real estate rings me, even like in my visualizations, I wanted to feel like we had a whole team that was like cheering us on. And I really felt that way. I felt like the real estates that we worked with, they wanted it for us. Our finance people, like, that we celebrated together once it came through. Like, and when the real estate rang me, she said, I can't believe I'm saying this, but this property is yours. And we're both like, what? She's like, like, I'm so happy that it's going to you guys. She said, the amazing thing is you actually met the owner the day that you came to the property. I didn't know it was the owner. And she said they thought you, it was me and my mother and my auntie that come to look at the property. And she said the owners thought that you were just lovely people, and they're so happy that it's going to you guys now. Because we were able to increase our offer to the price that they needed for their place.
There was something in there about that I remember you told me about, was there was a specific price they would be willing to met as well as the date. So tell us about that.
Oh, yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, that was amazing. So when the real estate's talking to me about putting the offer back in, she says, okay, so when would you be ready to settle? Because I said we've sold the Perth property, and I say the 18th of September. That's the date that this property is settling. And she sort of like, she like gasps, and she's like, that's the exact date that these guys need to settle for this house. And I'm like, oh my God. and even she was like, this doesn't happen very often. And then she said, then I asked her, okay, so all this time we didn't know the figure we need to come to. We had no idea. We just do what we can. We trust the universe that working with us. Yeah, I say, what figure do we need to come to? And she tells me, and it is the exact figure that we can put in now, because our Perth property sold for more and our block sold for a little bit more. So those extra money combined totaled the precise, like, spot on that figure. And when she tells me, I'm like, oh my God, that's the exact number. I'm like, it just could not be more clear that it's just showing me that anything is possible. And yeah, to just trust the universe, trust yourself, to take action. But a big part is trusting the universe. How could we control that? We didn't even know what number we needed to get to. How could we control that? And I feel like that's an important part, releasing control of that, because then you allow the space for the miracles to occur.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah. And here I am. I'm in my beautiful new office, and
right. Yeah. I almost want a tour.
Yeah.
I know. I was thinking I should do it on the phone, and then I can go around.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, you said a few words that really caught my attention.
Yeah.
Embody. Like when you embody that belief, what do you do to embody it?
Part of it for me is like saying the words stay open. And for me, that just helps me, like literally my shoulders roll back and it feels like my heart is opening. And I just feel it in my body. It's like the beliefs are so deep that it's not just in my mind, you know, it's a whole body feeling, it's the sensations, it's when you're believing in miracles, it's feeling like the tingles in your fingers, like, oh my God, this is actually alive and real. For me, it's about getting into that. And what helped me really get into that is I'm actually also working with a coach, and she's incredible. Her name's Shoshana Raven, and she does a lot of feminine embodiment work. And she's really helped me tap into that as well. And also what helped me to be able to feel it is anytime any doubts came in, I would acknowledge them and say, you know, that's normal. It's okay to have doubts, like I'm a human. And I wouldn't allow myself to add any stories to it, because I feel like a lot of the times when doubts actually get us off track is only when we allow them to, only when we add a story to it saying like, oh no, like I'm not doing the manifestation work right because I'm doubting. And that's when you actually go off track. But if you just like, no, I'm a human, I'm allowed to doubt. And then I would, anytime I felt a doubt creep in, I would say, but what if it all works out?
Yeah.
And I'll just ask the question. And instead of saying like it's definitely all working out when I had the doubts, I was just asking the question, but what if it does? Like, what if it does? And then it allowed my mind to just keep exploring the possibilities, and that helped me embody it as well, because as you allow your mind to think of what if it does work out, what would that look like? Like I could feel it in my body, like, oh my God, I'll be living in my dream place with my horses. And yeah, it's just the feeling and opening up, I feel, is a great way of embodying, and just saying to yourself, stay open. Like it affects the way you sit. Like, you know, if you notice yourself in those doubts, a lot of the time you are sort of like constricted. And if I felt that, I'd just remind myself, stay open, and the shoulders roll back, and yeah, feeling loose. And listening to your body when it needs to move, all those sorts of things help as well.
It's so amazing, because I think, talk about embodiment, I think you are the embodiment of exactly what we do in RTT with this story where, and I'm going to bring again, by now everybody knows my love for Dr. Joe Dispenza, talking about creating your future self, and even dream building, dreaming your dream and walk into your dream, and you walk into your future self. How do you walk? How do you talk? How do you speak? How do you think? And I think that's so important. And there was a blog I can't remember how long ago, by Dr. Joe Dispenza, saying that pretend that you're an actor and you write the script of this new role you're going to play, and now you rehearse it, you feel it, you learn how to talk, you learn how to walk, you learn how to think. And that's exactly what you did. And to me, that fine details of the date and the exact amount of money just tell me that there was a higher power involved here. You did not just have a team of your sister-in-law and the realtor and the finance guy. You had a team of many more beings on your side and just cheering you on in this. And I have chills with that detail.
Yes, totally, absolutely. It's funny you say that, because yeah, totally. I actually also asked for help from my angels. Like I asked like all my angels, anyone, you know, to help me with this. And the day after we find out that it's our home, I remember driving in my car, and I could just sense all my angels having a party above my head. Like, like we're all celebrating together.
Amazing.
Yeah, I totally feel that. Yeah.
Wow.
So you talked about in an earlier interview that we had with you, something that really stuck with me. You called it broadening your time horizon. What did you mean when you said that?
Yeah. I think that's such an important piece of it, to not get caught up on when like things have to happen. Like if you're telling yourself like it needs to happen by this certain date and it doesn't happen, then it's almost like you're blocking yourself from it actually coming, because we're always creating our realities. And if you're telling yourself, oh, it didn't happen by now, like it's not happening, then that's what you're going to create. But if you broaden your time horizon, if you can visualize it and just know that every part is still working out for you, even when it looks like it doesn't, like it's not working, that is so important. Like for us, like when we brought the block, and things weren't really happening, we kept getting delayed and that sort of thing. Like if we had just given up then and just said, oh well, it's not happening, like the price is escalating, and now we've realized, well, it's not exactly the right size property, we could have said like, okay, well, it hasn't happened by now, like it's been a couple of years by then, like we could have just pulled out and then we would have created that reality. But we broadened the time horizon. We said it's still working out for us. And it turns out that if we hadn't have brought that property, we wouldn't have had the extra money to come up to the exact price point, because we got extra for that property, and that's what helped us. So it was all a stepping stone. Like that wasn't the property, but that was a part of the journey.
It's like pieces of a puzzle.
Yes.
That's just quite amazing. So Renae, I can just imagine that for your clients, how you use your own story now to encourage them to walk into their dream homes. And tell me how you use this story now.
Yeah, well, I think that was part of why I was so excited about it. Like, of course I was excited for us, like, yes, this is our dream. Like I'm so happy and grateful for this. But another part of me was just so excited to have this story, because for so long, like I believed in RTT, I've felt it, like it's undeniable in me, the change. But sometimes it's hard to express because you're talking in intangible things. You're saying like, it's my self-confidence, it's my self-love, it's all of this stuff, which is incredible. But sometimes it's hard. The people from the outside do see a shift, but they're not seeing sort of big things.
Tangible, yes.
Yeah, tangible things. Now with this, it's like, this is undeniable. Like if any of my clients are doubting, I can say, look, like without a shadow of a doubt, I know that anything is possible. And I can tell them the story like of this all coming together. And it's like, it's undeniable. So yeah.
So if you could go back and wish something, how when you were riding your horse and you were like, oh, I just don't want to go back to the city. Oh, if I only didn't have to go back to the city. Now did you know that your mind created that environment where certainly you did not have to, because you were on the couch with a broken leg for 6 weeks. How would you have done it differently rather than say those words?
Yeah. I think everything works out for a reason, and I don't think I actually would change anything because I learned so much. And with breaking my leg, and I don't think I would change anything. But if I did want to sort of avoid that, I guess I would have just decided to start changing my life before something massive like that happened. I would have said, I want to live in the country, and I'd start creating the positive sides rather than saying I don't want to go back to Perth. I would have started creating the dream. Like, what do I want? Like, I want to live in the country. I want this freedom. I want to be with my horses. I would start focusing on the positives. But I do think that was an important part of my journey. And now I realize how much we can heal our bodies, and I've been able to speed up the healing with my leg with RTT as well. At the time, I didn't have all these tools, so I suffered for quite a while, but now I do. And like, even that, I'm like, well, I can empathize with people who are going through that sort of pain. I know what it's like. So I think it's all important. Even when I was suffering with a broken leg, like, I remember my nephews and niece would come over and entertain me, and like, there was still so much beautiful moments in those times. And I think that's also a part of it. Like, I can remind others, like, because sometimes it's hard for you to see, like, when you are literally, like, you can't move. Like, I couldn't go to the toilet by myself. Like, it was a really difficult time. But I remember thinking, like, oh, but my nephews are here, and how amazing are they? And to be able to remind people, like, you get to choose what you focus on. Even though I wasn't doing that to the best of my ability, now I can do that a lot better, I think, now. But even back then, I had a little glimpse of it. And so I feel like I can help people, you know, choose what they're focusing on in those times. Like, my being around my nephews and niece was such a, like, shining light in that time.
Well, it's amazing how you seem to just have that natural ability to turn a lot of negatives into a positive as well, and to see everything just as a piece of the puzzle. So it's quite inspirational, Renae. And so I have so many questions to still ask. We probably will have to get you back for another episode, as we are running out of time. So if I ask you to give our viewers and listeners a piece of advice on hope, what would you share?
I would say that just believe, like, anything is possible, and just try it on for now. Even if you don't feel it yet, just try it on. And just the fact that the people listening are here listening to this chat, just realize that you are in the same frequency. To hear a story like this, it means that anything is possible for you as well. Like, it's not just a select few people that can do this, it's everybody. And just being here, like, think of it like as in when you see angel numbers, like, that miracles are happening, and you just listening to this story means that it's all available to you.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
We didn't even get to talk about the healed horseman's journey.
I know, the healed horseman journey. Yeah,
I think we need to hear about the healed horseman, because that's,
tell us about that before we say goodbye to that. Yes.
Oh, sure. Yes, my pleasure. So I, because horses are my passion, as you've heard all throughout my vision, it was to do with moving into the dream with my horses. And also a part of my story is that horses led me to RTT as well. So I remember being out with my horses, and at the time when I was living in Perth and in that job that I really did not like, I had my horse up in Perth with me, but I had to travel to see him. And I remember at the times where I actually took time to, when I left work, I'd go home and sometimes I'd meditate before I went out. I noticed that those times I did that our sessions seemed to flow a lot better. I was more in tune with him, and everything went a lot smoother than if I went straight from work in a job that I didn't like, went out to see him, and like, I would just get frustrated with myself. And of course, I had all these beliefs saying I was not enough. So when I did things with my horse and I couldn't do a task, I would be beating myself up. And the journey wasn't really, I had such a passion for my horses, but the journey wasn't as enjoyable as it could be, because I spent so much time beating myself up and thinking I'm not good enough to do this, even when we could do lovely, amazing liberty things. Like, if something cropped up and it might be something small, but my mind was so wide to think I'm not enough. I would make it mean something about me instead of like, okay, this is happening. How can I help my horse? And being solution focused. So when I realized that all the meditating was helping, I realized I wanted to find something that could help me be in that state more often. And I feel like the horses are also what led me to RTT. They helped me to find this so that I could discover that I am enough. I could be focused on solutions, to have the confidence to feel more empowered around them and to really enjoy the journey. And so when I discovered RTT and I did all these sessions on myself, a lot of them weren't related to horses, but I noticed that my experiences with horses were changing as I changed. So I created this program, the Healed Horseman's Journey, and it's part of it is online, self-paced, where you have videos to go along with, and it's all about the mindset. And then part of it is the one-on-one work, so having RTT sessions with me, and that's all personalized. So whatever the client wants to work on, whether it's confidence, whether they've had an injury, whether they're fearing getting back in the saddle, or they don't trust themselves, anything really. Yeah, it's all to do with helping you to heal your inner wounds so that you can show up to your horse in a way that's like in alignment with your dreams with them.
That is absolutely amazing. I think so transferable, like even the analogy of getting back in the saddle is that you can transfer that to other things that has nothing to do with riding a horse as well. So absolutely amazing. Yeah. And then Renae, how can people get in touch with you?
Yes, sure. So the best way is on Facebook probably at the moment. So if you look up Renae Falcinella RTT Practitioner, it comes up. I'm pretty sure.
We will put a link up. We will tag you and put a link up in any way we can. So
yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing your absolutely amazing story. I cannot wait to show this to my husband. I let him read the testimonial that you put up on Facebook, and he already felt so inspired by it. So wow, Renae, amazing. Thank you so much for being here. And man, I feel like a proud mama.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for your beautiful sessions all that time ago. And yeah, I really appreciate
you did the work. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons is Fran, myself, we can guide our clients as much as we want to, as much as we wish them success. But if they don't keep up staying in that absolute positive zone, there's nothing we can do. And you've showed them how. So well done, Renae.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And if you liked what you saw today, please subscribe. I think the link is below here somewhere. And thank you, Marina. We will see you next time.
Thank you for being here. Bye.
Bye.